Hello, everyone. Welcome to Patriots 3 Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness. And here's your host, Tim and Firecracker, and our special guest, Nurse Nicole.
Hey, guys.
How y'all doing today?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Doing all right. So we'd like to remind our audience, if you're seeing this, go ahead and give us a like, share, and follow. We are back. Wow, it's been a little while since we've done a live broadcast here with Patriots 3. We did talk about LW. So in a couple of the previous episodes, I believe August 6th was the last time we had an update on that. We'll see if we can get another update on LW in the future.
That'd be good.
So today we're going to be talking about, your state legislation and how that has effect on your healthcare.
Yes.
In all. And wow, what an interesting journey it's been, especially these last 5.5 years, or maybe a little longer than that. Actually, it has been longer because I remember in 2019, a group of moms were in Sacramento just like practically pounding the walls down, fighting for their kids' rights. Amen. It's been, like I said, a very interesting journey when it comes to our state legislation and our health and how it controls our health and our children's health and, those around us overall.
Right.
So welcome, Nicole. It's been a while.
It has been. I'm so glad to be here.
So unfortunately, Nurse Ashley wasn't able to make it. She's been bogged down. She has a family herself, and we might be a little short on this show because Nicole also has family too that she needs to tend to. So we all have busy schedules and lives, and it's wonderful to have not just parents on board, but some wonderful voices, if not those who are just talk the talk but walk the walk. And Nicole is one of those that are out there doing it, making things happen. And my new nickname for her is
Dynamite.
Yes, she is absolute fire. She's just I wish Ashley, aka Spicy Mike, was able to make it, but again, my apologies. But definitely be sure to check out her book, Resuscitating Nursing.
Amen.
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome.
To my understanding, it's really good. I'm guilty. I have not read it yet. I need to take some time and a little bit of time in the evening and do some reading. But I'll go ahead and pop that link in a few minutes. And again, this has been an interesting journey as far as the state legislation and how that has control over our health and health needs. And I want to play a quick little video of something that Nurse Nicole has recently been talking about in her state of Florida.
This is Nicole. I'm a registered nurse in the Central Florida area and a medical and vaccine injury advocate. The first bill I wanted to mention that some of you may be familiar with is Cody's Law, or the No Vaccine Injured Patient Left Behind Act. This bill acknowledges that the vaccine injured exists and places already Medicare and Medicaid programs at the forefront to assess and treat their needs in a timely fashion. This bill highlights why mandating vaccines and not having resources in place to help those after should be condoned. And I want to thank State Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo for helping us with this bill gain federal interest. We hope that you will all support our State Surgeon General in ending the vaccine mandates in the state of Florida, leaving the choice solely up to the individual. The second bill proposal we recently filed with Senator Ileana Garcia is SB 188. It is called the Sudden Death in the Young Act of 2026. It calls for mandatory reporting of any vaccine or emergency countermeasures given within 90 days of any versions of sudden death in the ages of 20 years or less across all 24 medical examiner districts in the state of Florida. This will streamline inconsistent reporting practices across the state, add mandatory verbiage to be added to the Department of Health reporting forms, and allow full compliance with privacy laws, making this the information available for research and prevention. Other states that use this registry are already using the data to guide prevention strategies and to save lives. Florida families deserve the same transparency and accountability. By passing this bill, you will be able to turn around and give families more information. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to your support. Thank you.
Wow, awesome. That's dynamite right there, Nicole.
I know, that's awesome.
We originally had 3 minutes to speak, and halfway through the session, they cut us down to 1.5 minutes, which is why I sound like I'm choking on my words, because I was trying to get as much information out.
Boom, boom, boom.
It's so hard that you don't get enough time, but thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of information to digest.
Yes. Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about this. I know you're a strong advocate. Is Cody's Law still up and
Yeah, so, for those of you that don't know, I've been a nurse 20 years in the healthcare field, predominantly an acute care nurse in cardiac setting. But since the pandemic, being outspoken, I came forward to say what was happening behind the scenes in the hospital. And it led me to speak in front of local and state government to tell them what we were seeing during the pandemic and what was happening to the patients. And, consistently showing up in places that we were not wanted, especially as an unvaxxed nurse. I was seen as someone who's anti-science, anti-vax. And so they really thought my credibility was zero. And so for years, I would show up and I would speak about these really important topics. Well, unfortunately, because we really didn't listen to those people that had good intentions on the front lines, we now have a lot of vaccine injured individuals. And that led to Cody's Law, which is originally built around Cody Hudson, who's now in his early 20s. He was 21 at the time. He got COVID-19 vaccines because he thought he was doing the right thing at the discretion of a family member that's very high in the vaccine community, also a physician who basically said this was the right thing to do. Cody had significant adverse outcomes and injuries from it, which have cascade effect. And so Cody's Law was put into fruition to recognize that vaccine injuries exist, that we need to acknowledge that these individuals exist, and then also try to implement programs that are already within the Medicaid and Medicare sector to help give them timely treatment, because most of these injured have progressed because they've not had treatment. So we tried to tackle this past session in Florida. And unfortunately, despite the fact that we had both the House and Senate support, it did not get brought to the floor, and it was not something that we could vote this session. And so it kind of fell at the wayside until our state Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, joined forces with us to help us push it to a federal level. So it is in the works of getting federal attention and being pushed to then have a form of it looked at to make it across the United States to recognize vaccine injuries and possibly get those Medicare, Medicaid programs out to those individuals.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's incredible. It's been a journey. We wish we would have had more support from our state in other areas, but God works in mysterious ways, and we are taking that as a sign that it was probably always meant to go federal. And so we're hopeful. It is still a long journey, but that's where we're at right now with Cody's Law. I do still talk about it to keep that momentum going so people understand that we have not forgotten the injured. We're going to keep pushing for their rights, acknowledgement, and trying to get them the help that they need.
So the what you were just talking about there with your state legislation, this is what, about 2 weeks ago or a little less than 2 weeks ago?
Yes, sir.
What was that exactly you were talking about? Because I have a general idea, because it had to do with any type of death, including SIDS and some other.
So that's a separate bill.
Okay.
So my counterpart that I work with for the Florida CHD chapter, or Florida Children's Health Defense chapter, Maya Hahn, who's a speech language pathologist, put forth the Sudden Death and the Young Reporting Act of 2026, or SB 188, which has Senator Ileana Garcia, who filed it. And we are currently looking for a Florida House representative to take over as well, because in Florida you have to have both the House and the Senate sponsor, or it cannot go further. So this bill is to identify and have transparent data required by state law that any sudden death or any version of sudden death in the ages of 20 years or younger must have any vaccine or emergency countermeasure within 90 days of their death be reported to the medical examiner to then go on file. Wow. Most people did not know this did not already exist, and they assumed that it was being reported. And so when you talk about SIDS and the sudden death of these infants, children, and adolescents, of healthy children, and people are making the correlation between vaccinations and sudden death, people will always say, show us your data. Well, you can't show the data if they're not.
They don't have it.
Right.
Exactly. So this bill would make it mandatory for the medical examiners to ask that information, follow the HIPAA compliant laws. And then this data would be used to then help with preventative measures when it comes to cardiovascular issues that could be causing the sudden death, or maybe like the sleep disorders. It would streamline how we document and report to the Florida Department of Health, and also be able to give closure, right, to families who may not know, right, what happened to their children. And a lot of them are being told that it could be something they did, and this could potentially offer this kind of closure. So it has actually gained really great support. It was on the high wire. Del Begtree talked about it a few days ago.
Awesome.
It's made some mainstream media, but what's wild is that we still don't have a Florida House representative willing to take it. So with all this support, we still don't have someone in the state of Florida. So this is something that I've noticed since I've been in it for the past few years. Anything that has to do with vaccines, it's really hard to get support from our legislation.
Yeah, they're scared.
It puts a negative spin to it.
Yes.
There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of things that come down with the validity of, what do you believe in? Are you anti-science? Are you not? And so it becomes really difficult to pass these laws that just offer more transparency and resources. And with our state surgeon general coming out on September 3rd and saying he wanted to end all vaccine mandates in the state of Florida, it got a lot of response, good and bad. And so a lot of people are worried that now we're going to have these breakouts, these epidemics, these pandemics. We're going to cause all these problems because we're now not vaccinating. And the whole point to this is, where there is risk, there must be choice. And informed consent is not being given. And we're not saying don't vaccinate. We're saying you must give the choice to you can't mandate to inject these tiny, teeny little babies with all of these vaccines. It should be up to the discretion of a parent or parents to make this decision. And to say you can't be a member of society, go to school, go to daycare, go to college, that's inappropriate, right? And so it's not saying don't vaccinate. It's putting the choice back to the individual and giving them the right to do so. So hopefully we will have support in that. We have 2 phases that has to come with that. The first phase will come from the governor, who will do an executive order to sign off on the first few vaccines. And then the rest would have to be voted on in legislation in January. So there's a lot of feedback with that and that process that we're getting from the community. And so it's just, there's a lot to it. It's not just waving your pen and all mandates end. It's not that easy. So a lot of people are not very educated on that. So we like to explain it's going to go in phases, and it's not going to be all at once. And it's still going to take a little bit of effort to try to make happen, because the lobbyists and pharma and other people have come out of the woodworks trying to ensure that this does not happen. They are trying to shut down every chance of choice. And it's scary, because you guys can speak to California. And as a nurse, and we get people writing to us all the time from California, like they are just beside themselves, like no rights, no ability to choose, no bodily autonomy. Like I can't even fathom how terrifying that is.
It is. It's horrifying.
So I have a couple of questions, Nicole. So, so 2 questions here. How hard was it to, get these things put together as far as the bills for SIDS? And then the follow-up question is what can people do to get involved to see that you find the sponsor or co-sponsor to see this bill go forth?
So those are great questions. So the first question, how hard was it? I can't speak exactly because it was Maya that put it together, but Maya basically sat down, saw a need, and it also stems on the fact that we've had an uptick in cases of sudden death. And how do we combat that? Well, we have to figure out what's causing it. And so was able to sit down and kind of piggyback off a bill and some clauses that are already in motion. So this is going to elaborate on that, which is a little bit easier to do in legislation, to kind of amend, if you will, versus start completely over. So she worked on that. And like I said, it's 4 pages. You can find it online, SB as in boy 188-2026. And it kind of goes into the more specific. So she was able to get that. And then how can you get involved? Well, a lot of people ask this question. They feel like the video that you just showed, do I have to stand in front of a crowd of people? Do I have to speak? It's very intimidating, right? They're like, wait, this is crazy.
It is.
As much as I would love for people to show their face and come forward, because that's what really speaks volumes, unfortunately, putting a face to a name and like putting yourself out there. There's a lot of things that people can do as silent supporters. They can write, they can call, they can show up to their legislators, local and state, and let them know that these bills are something that we're looking to push forward, and basically talk to them about it, familiarize yourself with the actual bill information, and then, asking them would they be willing to be a sponsor or a co-sponsor, and explaining what that means for our communities. We have to be able to come together and acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't want to do that, right? Because if we do that, that means it's an admittance of guilt. Something is wrong. And we were told everything is safe and effective. Well, clearly it's not. And we're not saying it's affected everyone like that, but a fair amount of people have been hurt, and a fair amount of people are no longer with us. So that's why we speak out and say their names, so people don't forget who they are and how important it is that our legislators know, like, you may not think that this is going to affect you personally, but when you continue to have all this death or this harm, it is going to affect the healthcare system. Like Tim said, these decisions or lack thereof will affect, are you going to get seen at a doctor's office, in a hospital? What about overcrowding? If you're constantly a sick society, it's broken. And so what can we do to try to combat some of that, decrease the amount of people in freestanding emergency departments or needing hospitals altogether? Urgent care, right. So these bills do matter when it comes to raising awareness and trying to prevent. Some people are too far in this because of these vaccines, and it's not just the COVID-19 vaccine. Unfortunately, it's all vaccines that can cause harm and death. And if people want to challenge that, you just read a vaccine insert and it'll tell you that everything I'm saying is true. So people need to know, like, I don't want you to live in fear. I don't want you to be scared, but they do have risks. People are getting hurt. And in order to combat that, we have to address that it exists. And that's why we have these conversations with our legislators. We make it not taboo. We keep talking about it. We keep posting about it. And we have those difficult conversations that nobody wants to have, because unfortunately, if it's not you, it's someone you know. And a lot of people are losing loved ones, and they're kind of making this connection like, oh my gosh, like it's, so getting involved, knowing who your local and state representatives are, writing them, giving the bill information, making an appointment to meet them, and then reach out to groups in our area. So grassroots organizations in Florida, we have Florida Freedom Keepers, we have Florida CHD. I'm a nurse on Nurses Out Loud. We try to talk about hard conversations and try to get people engaged, and all levels are welcomed. You don't have to be a healthcare individual. We work with all individuals. And, if you have questions or concerns, or, you want more information on something, that's where you can go and find us in some of those groups and reach out, and we can try to help as we can. We're not physicians. Obviously, I can't give medical advice, but I do help educate and advocate so people feel more empowered.
Yeah, so I gave a vitamin protocol on Nurse Nicole was live, and everyone was asking about this protocol, and I'm just like, drop, boom, and it's like, I only have an associate's degree. I'm not quite the doctor, so.
We know. I've had a lot of experience, and there's a lot of things I know about, but I do have to make sure I put that PSA out there that I'm not a doctor, not trying to be one, but I do have a lot of knowledge to help, or at least guide individuals. And I always want people to know, we don't try to make you think like we do. We're trying to give you informed consent and educate you so you can make the best decision, because what may work for me may not work for you or your family. And that's okay. Like, it's totally okay to have that. We don't have to agree all the time. And that's the beauty of choice. And that's why when people get so upset and they think we're taking away their right, I'm like, no, I'm fighting for you to keep your right. Like, even though you don't think I'm doing it, So yeah, so it's really trying to get people that may not even align with what we're doing. It's still trying to protect them and their children.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
being
that's
that Nurse
awesome.
Ashley wasn't able to join us, I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to find out more in the state of Indiana.
Yes.
But I suggest anybody just to look up for your state assembly and your state senate, and look up those bills, because usually those are on the state's websites. And watch out, some of these bills can be tricky. They'll have a title that's not true to its written language
Right.
underneath.
Yes.
What the bill
Unrelated.
is written about. Yes, completely unrelated.
But I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people will hear certain snippets that are put out there about certain bills or information, and they don't do their own research. And if you're not careful, you can really be misinformed. So I always try to give the full bill context, or where you can go find it so you can read it and ask questions, because a lot of times we can't put this content out more than a few minutes, so there's not everything can be covered. So it's really good to do that research. Absolutely.
Yes, I basically just want to give the message that, to get involved, it's not rocket science. It's,
you can push it out there. Yeah.
All you got to do is be able to read and, get a better understanding what the bills are. You can Google a lot of this information, or use your favorite search engine. I shouldn't say the rotten G word.
Right. Don't say that.
Get brave and get out there and do it.
Right. Well, and people always ask too, like, did I come from a legislative background? Did I grow up in politics? No, I was thrusted into this in 2020 when I had to learn really quickly, that the system was very broken, and it was not going in the direction we all intended it to. And so I had to learn and teach myself. And there's still things I don't know, and rely and lean on other people with more experience. So I don't want that to discourage people. If you don't know much about politics, or you don't know where to start, your local government is usually the best place. Your town hall meetings and going to things, just know your constituents and just know what's going on, so that you are dealing with these individuals making decisions behind closed doors. And then it escalates up into the House and Senate. And, again, these laws are being put in place that most people have no clue. And some of them are not great bills. So it's always nice to know ahead of time what's going on. And that's part of what we do. We try to put out different things happening in Florida, raise awareness on certain bills that may be coming up and coming, and then see if people are willing to support us and help get that message out.
Well, it's not, just healthcare in general. It's about, the insurance costs.
Right.
Yes.
There's even like medications that got approved, and this is actually a different committees. It's not ran by the state. That's through the FDA. But there's medications that are not approved in the United States that they've been using in countries for years.
And we talked about that.
I actually experienced that, where they were using a medication for like a couple of decades, and they finally approved it here in the United States. And this is like 30 years ago. Actually, as of tomorrow, it'll be 2 years since I've last seen a doctor.
Wow, that's good too.
That is good.
So my health is better. I'm been pharma free for like a year and a half. So no.
Awesome.
I've taken 2 Tylenol in the last 2 years.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's great. I mean, and so some people can do that, right? And I think that's amazing that people have the option. And we also try to teach about preventative stuff, right? Like during the pandemic, we didn't hear go outside and get your sunlight so you can get that vitamin D that was non-existent in all the COVID patients, right? That's where we found vitamin D levels were non-existent, and why those patients were dying, in addition to eating healthy food, drinking your water, light exercise. You never hear any preventative. It's just get the injection, get the injection, get the injection. Right. And we're sicker than we've ever been. So
we are.
I'm not saying some people may not need medicine, but I think a lot of times the root cause is ignored, and we just go to the quick fix, like currently with the Ozempic pandemic. And
that's big now.
It's huge. And just so many people rely on a sick care system. So it can be so much better, but patients also need to learn to take accountability for their health. So that's a big thing too, as Americans and beyond. It is our responsibility how we take care of ourselves. That does play a major role.
So we have a comment that came in we have a comment that came in. This is out of California, actually. My son had an adverse effect from the MMR.
God bless.
Yes.
So I actually have a vaccine injured brother. I didn't really talk about that a lot, and so Tim might not even know, but who was vaccine injured by the MMR vaccine. most people don't realize it's a 3-in-1 vaccine, and
Right,
it's given in multiple doses. And so depending on when you take your child and you do your well visit, it will be presented to you as part of the routine.
right,
And so a lot of
right.
times you're getting this 3-in-1 vaccine in addition to others. And the
Right.
amount of ingredients in these, aluminum, you've got your formaldehyde, you've got some mercury in some of these.
Oh my God.
It can really build up in their
That's
system.
horrible.
And they're so tiny. And so it's actually a very common vaccine that causes significant adverse outcomes, especially in boys, especially in our minority children, and one that they have linked a lot to causing their regression into autism. And I can tell you, sadly, our family is one of those statistics. My brother has profound autism after receiving it, and he's 22, just turned 22. He will forever need care his whole life. And so again, it's people need to understand that, if you were blessed to not have that happen to you, praise God. But there are so many families that are gaslit and told there's nothing, it's not a correlation. And these families are telling you the only difference my healthy child experienced were these vaccines. And so to the person who wrote in, I feel you. I am so sorry that happened.
Right.
And I guess this child made it. There's a lot that don't, and that's where they contribute it to SIDS.
Yeah.
And so this is why in Florida, we're trying to get to the bottom of it and get that bill passed, SB 188, to see if in fact this is causation equals correlation. And if these children that are passing, putting together that most likely they've received a vaccine within 7 days of their death.
All right, ready to get your tinfoil hat on? Because I have some things and dots to connect. So in the 1980s, I remember a lot about the install carbon monoxide detectors, because this is the cause of sudden infant death syndrome. Both myself and Firecracker remember this. And in 1986, there was a bill that was passed to for the vaccine or the pharmaceutical companies to not maintain any liability if there's any damages.
Right.
So I'm connecting these dots here, and it's not good for our nation. If they can get rid of that 1986 act, and I don't remember what the act is called off the top of my head, but it's just
I don't either, but
there's some accountability behind your product.
Well, and so I think that's part of the thing, right? When they keep coming and saying that you are forced and mandated to take something, or you cannot be a productive member of society, but then double down and have the balls to say that if something happens, that the very organization, manufacturer that makes this product is 100% liability free. How does that not raise any red flags? So what's really interesting is that for every vaccine given, 30 cents is put into the VICP, which is a vaccine injury compensation program that was put together by the federal government that most people don't even know exists, that pays out for vaccine injuries that they say do not exist. So it is rare that you would meet criteria because they put these people through hell and back. However, it does exist and it is available. And so again, people don't realize that these manufacturers, you cannot sue. So if you take the risk, there is zero reward for most people because the risk versus benefit is very non-existent when you look at the grand scheme of things.
And for sure.
A lot of people will say that the vaccines are what changed the society and, decreased disease, but fail to mention it really wasn't the vaccines per the data. It was clean water. It was, access to proper hand washing. We're not in a third world country. It's different in those countries that don't have it. So there's a lot of things that played a role in that. And as you can see, a lot of the things that RFK Jr. is trying to point out is when we started introducing these vaccines and at the same time gave liability to these manufacturers, the rate of disease, autism, and death has just gone up over the years, over the decades. We're losing a lot of children to this pandemic that these parents are not going to outlive their children. And so someone's going to have to take care of these people that are damaged. And when I say damaged, I mean that they have these debilitating illnesses and things that need care and people that know how to care for them. If you've ever interacted with an autistic child,
that's hard.
it's a routine. You
Yes.
you have to know what makes them tick and certain things and food aversions. And if you don't know that child,
Kind of scary.
and you go out of their routine, you can set a catastrophic events off. And so when they lose their person, if their parent who's cared for them their whole life dies or outgrows them, you know, where do these children go? Where do these children that turn into adults that still need care go?
Care of them.
Right. And what systems do we have in place? Because we don't even have them for our elderly that are healthy.
Right.
Correct.
So this is really a conversation people don't want to have. And there's nothing in place. And it used to be like 1 in 1,000. Now it's 1 in 31 children are autistic.
Wow, really?
It's significant. It is a pandemic of proportions. So it's really intense. And people just need to know.
When I was growing up, there was about 5, maybe 8 vaccines total. 5, I think, was what it was. And, you know, it used to be like this cigar looking burn. And that's, you know, that single.
Yeah.
You know, must have been smallpox.
That actually ended the year I was born. So, so I don't have the cigar burn on my side.
I don't either.
But
I don't either.
How many vaccines are there now?
Great. Yeah. So it used to be 5 that I think went up to 8. And so now if you follow the exact schedule from birth to the age of 18, you will have given them over 70 vaccines, 70. If you do from birth to end of life, you're giving close to 100, 120. That includes flu, pneumonia, you know, COVID. And so again, what we've been calling to do is remove the COVID-19 vaccine off the market. We want them banned. We want them
right.
Gone.
Yeah.
That drug is yes.
Unfortunately, it's on the market, and states are still pushing as young as 6 months of age.
I know.
And also pregnant women. And so, you know, again, that's a whole topic for another day. But pregnant women who are carrying a female in their that affects the woman's eggs. The eggs of the baby, and then if she happens to have a female, those eggs. So we don't have any long-term testing to prove how safe this is, any of this.
It's scary.
And we've seen a spike in infertility. We've seen a spike in menstrual issues and all of these other neurological, cardiac, they've had strokes, heart attacks. So it's a really big problem, and it's all in the inserts. It's all coming out in data, and people are still getting them. I have a program that I run, and I've seen as high as 10. These are usually transplant patients, but they have as many as 10 COVID-19 vaccines.
Now, do you know if there's any studies on the fertility for men, for the sperm of the men? You know, and
that's
I do recall there was a couple of episodes regarding Gardasil or the HPV vaccine. And I do believe the nurse David Wayne mentioned that there was something about men's fertility.
So it's definitely something that's not widely studied. And I still don't think we have enough data, but I do know that there's a correlation between the HPV or Gardasil vaccine because unfortunately they were giving that injection to both males and females. And when it's right. Well, they always say the men are the silent carriers, and then the females could. So it's just coincidental that now when they started pushing that vaccine, those individuals are now adults. And so all this time has passed, and we're seeing an increase in infertility that has been linked to Gardasil. And then in addition to the COVID-19 vaccine, because the mRNA spike protein was thought to only stay in the area of injection. Unfortunately, they have found it in sperm, breast milk, the eggs, blood-brain barrier. So it never stayed where it was supposed to. This has been proven in autopsies of people. And why people have died and had to have their tissue tested and found spike in them. So they're saying that this is also a potential correlation to the decreased fertility. And then of course, women, I remember years ago, were coming forward saying that they had really heavy menstrual cycles or very irregular menstrual cycles. And they were told that there was no correlation. Well, now there's evidence-based research that says absolutely it is related to the vaccine. And so you just give it time, right? They always say it's a conspiracy theory until time has passed. And then here we are, all these people that came forward have been proven right. So unfortunately, it's causing a lot more harm than anything positive.
Right. And you have children, and it's required for them to start school, isn't it? Don't they have to be vaccinated before
It
they
depends
can
on
start?
it depends on the state you live in.
So
Here you do.
yeah, California and New York are the
Mhm.
Nazi states that you guys can't
Yeah.
do anything.
We know.
Florida, which my heart goes out to you guys. I just don't know how, and then Florida, my children are religiously exempted to the age of 18.
Oh,
They
good.
have no longer have to do any of that. And I will tell
That's
you,
awesome.
I was not awake like I am now. My children are vaccinated up into a certain age. And I can tell you my oldest was always sick, always had ear infections, always had problems. And I never made the connection. And even as a nurse in the field, we're just not taught. And then
That
I
would be a
started
thing.
and then I started to see what happened during the pandemic. And when I
Mhm.
started to advocate against the COVID-19 vaccine, what I was met with were the parents for
Oh, yeah.
decades who have been fighting against the childhood vaccines. And then my
Yep.
mind was just blown. They opened me up to a whole new that I just didn't
Yeah.
even consider. And I will tell you, since my children have not been vaccinated personally, they're rarely sick, if ever. And I
Right.
mean that. And my heart goes out to all those parents that are constantly told it's
Right. They
something
have to.
else.
Yeah.
And they keep vaccinating, thinking that's the right thing to do. And then their children have ticks. They have, stomach problems, skin problems, asthma, ear infections.
Mhm.
And there's nothing else they can contribute it to. So we always just want people to know that there's information out there. You just have to be able to be willing to receive it. I was unaware at one point, but now once you see it, you never go back.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I have a disease. I'll call it dis-ease. It has me in a wheelchair. I can still, stand up, walk. I can feel from head to toe and, function fairly well. Except for the walking part. I got a lot of spasticity in my feet, hypersensitivity in my, from like my knees down. The more and more I think about it, was this a vaccine injury related issue? Because they've been calling it hereditary without any substantial proof.
I think it probably could be.
I've searched forward, backwards, and sideways. I'm talking second cousins, third cousins, twice removed, and so on and so forth. No one at all has anything like this in my family.
I was going to say, was there any genetic testing to prove otherwise?
They did, but there was no answers that came out of that. I've had so much blood draw. My gosh, the vampires are lining up for my veins.
It's a very good question. I don't have any left. Exactly. But, it's a very good question because I'm telling you, the studies that are not done, and again, for those that are listening, prove me wrong, not a single childhood vaccine on the market has had a true placebo testing for safety done ever. Yeah. And if you can find one, let me know. It's not been done. And our long-term studies for most of these vaccines are days to a few weeks. They are not months or years, and they've never been tested together to say we can give. Some babies get 6 or 7 vaccines at once. That has never been tested together. Yeah. And so, but we blindly trust it because the doctors, who I don't think
tell us
technically right, and I don't think that they're all malicious. I mean, they're just ignorant. No. They're not taught, right?
Right.
And so they tell you what they're taught, but you have to question as a parent, why are you giving this? What is the necessity? Right. What are the actual risks involved? Like hepatitis B to a 1-day-old or a baby that's a few hours old. That's what we give to sex workers, people that have same-sex partners, IV drug users.
Yes.
Unless you have a Hep B positive mother, which they test you for, we get tested.
Right.
You shouldn't be injecting that into a baby. And so all of these things make you question, why are we doing this? And nobody has a good answer. It's like preventative against what? Doing drugs at the age of 5 hours old? Like, you have the right to defer. You have the right to say no. And so parents just need to know, no matter what state you're in, ask questions. Your child's life depends on it. Yeah. And when these injuries happen or the death, you can't sue. Is what I'm telling you. There's laws in place, right? It's the 1986 act. This is what Tim was talking about. You cannot sue anyone. They say try to go after the government. Yeah, have fun trying to do that. You will lose. Right. So it's really sad. Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't sue Big Pharma because they're protected. So families don't know this, and then they're stuck with this poor outcome or this just sadness of a loss of a healthy baby otherwise. And Children's Health Defense have done multiple documentaries, Vaxxed, Vax 2 and Vax 3.
Yeah.
I happened to be in the Vax 3 documentary for a few minutes.
Awesome.
But it
That is
shows
awesome.
you these people who have just come forward, who people on the other side will call them anti-vax. And it's like,
Yeah.
but they got the vax, or they vaccinated their children. And these children are
Without
literally
knowing.
right. And they're literally
No.
helpless. They've regressed. They need 24 care. And it's just parent after parent after parent. We're talking hundreds, thousands of people that have come forward with almost the same story. How can you say this is not related?
Well, another symptom that I had right around the same time of the vaccine schedules for a young child to enter into grade school was a seizure condition. They called it borderline epilepsy, and that lasted for a few years. And then I didn't like the way the medication made me feel, so I tapered off and discontinued the medication under my own volition.
Epilepsy medications are really bad for you, though.
So there's a handful of things that just kind of went back to back to back as far as like the schedules, and this is why I'm like kind of connecting that dots or making that correlation in
Probably valid.
in my own case study. They call my medical chart a case study, and just the paper chart is that thick, and that's not including the last 15 years. This is from like 1988 up until
Incredible.
The late
But you're
90s.
probably right. Because again, that's typically what happens is they usually have some sort of neurological event. It's usually a febrile seizure or back-to-back seizures, or they stop breathing, heart stops. And so there's some things because of the overload, and you have this distinct cry or this distinct irritability that parents will describe it's like nothing consoles these babies, and it's just this high pitched, just curdling scream. And the pediatricians tell them to do what? Just give them Tylenol.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, really?
There's a correlation with that.
The Tylenol just came out into the big news, right? To say that Tylenol causes autism. And it's not necessarily that it causes autism. It's just when you give vaccines, the pediatricians tell you, oh, if your baby's fussy or has a fever, which means their body is telling you something's wrong. That's what's happening. They're having a reaction. And instead of listening to that reaction, we give something called Tylenol that depletes the glutathione in their stomach, which can make them more susceptible to toxins and taking them in and causing them to have more of a reaction to the vaccine, and in turn can cause these autistic symptoms. And so it's not actually Tylenol causes autism. It does a cascade of events within the body that make you more receptive. And so we're giving these babies Tylenol, ignoring their body's response and telling it we're blanket covering the problem. And this is a story that many parents, I was told the same thing. And so you just think, oh, baby's fussy, they had vaccines, they're tired, they're fatigued, they're acting funny, they won't eat. All things like, how is that normal? How is that?
It's not.
Right?
It's not.
A baby can't just say, hey mom, I have a headache, or hey mom, I have a belly ache. A baby can't talk. So
but thinking back, Nicole, like when I had my daughter, first thing they do is they come in and they start jabbing her. And I'm thinking, like, what the hell are they giving her? But I didn't know either. I had no idea.
And most
I just thought I was supposed to.
And most people think you have to. And in some states, they'll call Child Protective Services, which to me is just such an inappropriate call. But so I say this to anyone's listening, you have to know your state laws, but educate yourself, protect those babies. I mean, you ultimately are the guardian. The state does not own your children. Please do not let them just do whatever. And just inform yourself. And you can always say you want to delay, that you just want to take some time to think about it. Yeah, you can delay. And then in the state of Florida, we tried to pass a law this past session that did not go through. But unfortunately, pediatricians can refuse to see you if you don't vaccinate. A lot of states have the same problem. It's not illegal. It's a right to basically to private practice. And so, but just so you know, very public knowledge is that pediatricians make their money off vaccines and the percentage of compliance. So that's why they will turn you away, because you affect their bottom dollar and how they get reimbursed.
They're not
for
making
the vaccines. Exactly.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, instead of looking at it from an ethical perspective, to say that children still deserve to be looked at and cared for and receive basic health care because that's a right,
Yeah.
they're being
Yes.
turned away and told that they don't
Right.
deserve it because they're being discriminated against based on their vaccine status. So it's
Yeah.
just something that people don't talk about, and it shouldn't be allowed or legal. Same thing
Mhm.
that you shouldn't be turned away for your sexual orientation or your color
Right.
of your skin.
Yeah,
What's the
correct.
difference? There's no difference.
Correct.
So people need
Yeah.
to wake up and demand
Mhm.
better.
Yes,
Right. You couldn't even
absolutely.
enter a hospital in California unless you showed that you were vaccinated. And I
Wild.
said, well, why I'm not even getting treated here. I'm just coming to see somebody and you want me to show a vaccination card? I'm like, well, I'll have to make one up real quick.
Right, right.
Because I'm not
Yeah,
doing that.
don't
I'm
do
not doing
that because that actually falsifies important data. And
that. Yeah,
Nicole will
right.
talk
Okay, wait. I
about
didn't just say that, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
But hey,
No, Tim's right. I mean, but people did do that. They felt out of desperation. But like Tim said, the sad
right,
part is we don't have the correct data because we have a lot of things that were done out of desperation, which I'm not
right.
judging. I'm not judging. I'm just saying it does. It looks like all these people were vaccinated and there's no problem when really they were
Right.
never vaccinated or
Right.
or whatever. So it's like, how do you have this correct data? So we'll never
Right.
get that data back. But moving forward, we collect it in the hospital, and I'm really curious to see where it goes in the future, to show people what we're seeing in the hospital and putting
Yeah,
that
that's
information
important.
out there, because people just still in 2025, they don't think it's real or that it's
Yeah.
happening, and it's both.
Right,
So,
right. It's
ladies
affecting
and
people.
gentlemen, Nicole was only supposed to be on for 30
I
minutes, and we've
know.
kept her definitely over that. I want to play a video. It's just under a 5-minute video. When I was actually at a committee hearing in California on August 9th of 2022, and this is just a couple of days after getting a terrible burn on my feet. I'm squeezed my swollen feet inside shoes just so I can make a hearing to try to fight some terrible bill about the it's a committee on the pandemic emergency response.
Yeah.
And so first we're going to see Mr. Josh Coleman. So this is in California, and Nicole knows who Josh is.
Right.
So you can actually
Tells
meet
me
some people that are on the way to getting famous, or so just show up to these meetings, get to know what these things are about, and the more that you get involved, the more you know, and the more you know,
Right.
the more you want to get involved.
Amen.
So I want to play back this video, get Nicole's response, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
Yeah, she's got
Joshua
babies
Coleman,
at home.
and I am the co-founder of V is for Vaccine, the world's largest public education organization on vaccine risk. So I'm just going to bring up a couple of things. So normally quarantine programs target quarantining the ones sick with the virus or disease and those most at risk. The ones most at risk for serious complications from COVID-19 were known very early on. It was the elderly and persons with health complications, including obesity. The shutdowns for COVID-19 essentially quarantined everyone. You don't quarantine healthy people who aren't exhibiting symptoms of the virus. It is extremely rare that an asymptomatic person is contagious. The following is a direct quote from Dr. Anthony Fauci. I'm quoting now.
Gosh.
The one thing historically people need to realize is even if there is some asymptomatic transmission in all the history of respiratory-borne viruses of any type, asymptomatic transmission has never been the driver of outbreaks. The driver of outbreaks is always a symptomatic person. Even if there is a rare asymptomatic person that might transmit, an epidemic is not driven by asymptomatic carriers, end quote. So here's a policy. If you're sick with a cough and a runny nose, you stay home. You can't go to work, you can't go to school. If you have no symptoms, there's no reason to quarantine. Our economy can't take another hit like it did during the last lockdowns. Something that was done that I hope is never repeated again was our governor ordered nursing homes to admit COVID-19 positive patients. The largest demographic of COVID-19 deaths in California were amongst persons above the age of 80, which CDPH reports was 37.1% of all deaths in California. A nursing home is literally the very last place a COVID-19 positive patient should be.
Right.
Did you know that CDPH is reporting that individuals under the age of 5 represent 0% of COVID-19 deaths in California? CDPH also reports that kids from 5 to 17 represent only 0.1% of COVID deaths in California. People 18 to 34 made up only 1.7% of California's COVID-19 deaths. So these numbers are very important and should be considered going forward. Putting blanket restrictions on everyone when kids aren't even registering a single percentage point in COVID deaths is illogical. Right. Again, quarantine the sick ones exhibiting symptoms at their home. The ones at risk, the elderly and persons with health complications, should be given quarantine instructions, but at the same time, it should be up to them since they're the ones at risk. The smarter phase you're working on lists vaccines as the most powerful weapon against hospitalizations and serious illness. Okay, well, let's be clear now. The covid19.ca.gov website says, and I'm quoting, COVID-19 vaccines teach our immune system how to fight the virus that causes COVID-19. You can still get COVID-19 after vaccination, but your symptoms are likely to be much less severe, end quote. So if the COVID-19 vaccine doesn't prevent infection or transmission, then why would we ever have any type of vaccine mandate? The vaccine doesn't protect the people around the person who was vaccinated. It only claims to, potentially, prevent hospitalization and serious illness of the person vaccinated. Therefore, if you want to make vaccines available, go ahead, but it should always be a choice. And I just want to end by reading to you the definition of bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy is the right to make decisions about your body, life, and future without any coercion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. So we are going to...
Excuse me, Mr. Newman.
Oh, my goodness. I am so sorry. You were blocked by the pillar there. Please proceed. I apologize.
Hi, my name is Timothy Holliday. I do greatly agree with Mr. Coleman. We also need to make consent between patient and doctor, not to have government be forced upon these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, and apologies for not acknowledging it. Thank you, Mr. Holliday.
So to keep in mind, some of these buildings that were newly renovated are not really wheelchair or ADA compliant.
No, they're not.
This giant pillar, this 4.5 feet wide blocking. So the senator, the chair of that committee, wasn't able to see me. But second of all, God bless Mr. Coleman. He's out there doing it. He's not a doctor.
Yeah.
He just he did some homework. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And he also pulled some really great facts, right? I mean, again, when in the history of any time do we lock down healthy people? Where do we tell healthy people to put a mask on their face for hours and hours at a time? You just don't do that. And that's something we really had to educate a lot of our patients and communities that if you are immunocompromised, it is the responsibility of the individual who's immunocompromised to follow the protocols and implement what is appropriate to keep them safe.
Correct.
Not to say that we can't help with certain processes, but the majority does not pander to the minority. It's just not how we do things. And so it definitely kept us in the pandemic longer, because when you're locking down healthy people, when you're injecting them with things that shed, despite their saying that it didn't, and you are making it so that people are constantly covering their faces with dirty, nasty masks and touching their face all the time without washing their hands, you keep people in a perpetual state of illness. And that's exactly what we saw. And so it just continued. And with each wave, you saw a different phase of who was affected and what happened. And that is truly why I believe it continued as long as it did, because it had multiple opportunities to evolve. And then once you introduce the vaccine, it will evolve further. And so that's exactly what happened. And so herd immunity is important.
I agree.
We do that with babies and passive immunity and breast milk and everything. So it makes no difference. So they just put that into fruition, and that just really caused a lot of lifelong things to happen. And life will never be the same, unfortunately, because of it. And so hopefully the lesson is learned that we don't repeat history like that again.
Right. So Nicole, for those that want to follow you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so we have Hennessy 03, HENNAC 03 on Twitter. And then on Instagram, we have hold_the line CLNC, and that's where we do a lot of the advocacy stuff there, or any Florida CHD Children's Health Defense link for Florida on all socials. We're there, and nursesoutloud.com.
Aha, there it is. I'm doing things a little backwards. I put in her Instagram into the comments, and I'm going to find her the X account and
Yeah,
put
at
that in the
Hennessy
comments right
zero
now.
03. But yeah, we love to connect. We love to talk with individuals. We love to help where we can. We want people to feel hope, although it does sound a lot like gloom and doom. I understand
Yeah.
that. We just want to be realistic. We want to tell people the truth, right? But also know that
Yeah.
there are people fighting the good fight. We keep showing up as
Yeah.
exhausted and as bruised as we are. And Tim
Yeah.
can speak to it, right? Tim sees us, doing
Yeah.
what
Oh, yeah.
we do. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you for having me and letting people hear kind of what we're doing in Florida. And, when certain things happen in certain states, it can go out to other states. And so that's what we're hopeful for. Once we can
Yeah.
pass some of these bills, other states will follow.
Well,
Yes.
mad respect to you, Nicole. You
Yes.
do
Correct.
an awesome job. And this is why
Yep.
I now call you
Dynamite!
because you are flipping awesome.
I love it. I
And
love
then,
being here. Thank you.
I love it.
Hopefully we can get Spicy Mike on fairly soon. And for those that don't know, a Spicy Mike is actually Nurse Ashley
Yes.
out of Indiana. And I did put the link in to the comments, the h4ml.org. So that's in the comments, so you can reach out to her or, to find out how to get involved in the state of Indiana. But to get involved in any state, just look up your state legislation, the Assembly and the Senate.
Right.
And find, look up these bills
Right.
and, find out where these meetings are. I don't know if they're still doing the call-in responses, but you can actually, write in, as Nicole said earlier, the silent responders.
Right.
If you don't feel like getting on
Yeah.
stage. I was shaking like a leaf because I was nervous getting up on
It's
stage.
nerve-wracking.
It is.
Well,
it is.
when all eyes are on you, and sometimes if you're more of a
Yeah.
conservative background, you've got Democratic, so I get it, right? And so it doesn't have to be that intense.
Right.
Like Tim said, call,
Yeah.
write, show up
Yes.
to your local meetings. You can be in
Yeah.
the background. Knowledge is power, and we
Yes.
want people to feel empowered. You
I
are
agree.
electing these officials; they work for you.
Well,
So
empower
that's-
yourself
Right,
and
right.
obtain
That's
that
true.
knowledge. It's right there. It's all
That's
right there
true.
on their website.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Have accountability,
Right.
get to know. And then if you agree with something, you can promote it. And if you don't agree with it, you can also go and say you have questions. And again, they are
Right.
they are hired and appointed by the people. And so they work for
Right.
you. And that's why we have to remind them, we're here, we're going to keep showing up.
Yes.
Please work with us.
But if-
Otherwise,
I think yes.
if you want control over your better of your health, how the doctors treat
Yeah.
you, your insurance, and basically anything, because the
Yes.
government has control on so much. We, the
Right.
people, are the government, including you
Yes.
who are watching. We all need to get involved.
amen.
So
Yes,
take control
thank you.
of your life and take control
Yes.
of your government.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, it's so
Thank you,
important.
Nicole.
Otherwise, once you lose those rights, you never get them back.
Right.
So
That's
it's
true.
very
That's
important.
true.
We keep fighting, not for us or our children, but our children's children.
Yes,
right.
yes.
For sure.
Amen.
Thank you.
So this show was put together very last minute. So I definitely want to, thank Firecracker here, and then our guest, Nurse Nicole.
Nicole's Wonder
really
Woman.
appreciate you.
Dynamite.
Thank you.
Oh, let me do it again.
Yeah, do it.
There it is.
I
I'm
love,
Lots
here
of
for
lovely,
it.
Nicole.
I love it.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're back on Peaches 3, Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness. Be sure to catch us in the later part of the afternoons on Thursdays. And look out, watch for Tim Holiday TV on, most of your major social media networks. They're actually right there on the ticker tape. But and for the future announcements, I will be more, more aware of what we're doing in the future, and I'll make sure you all are as well. Until next time, be sure to, like, share, and follow, and we'll catch you next.